Walking on the moon. Walking on the moon.
One moment to escape. And you walking on the moon.
Walking on the moon. Walking on the moon.
I've never been. All our trouble seems to fade away. This is how I feel when you take me to some levels that I've never been. All our trouble seems to fade away. When we dance I've never been. I've never been.
Got a feeling it burns in my chest. It's growing larger with every breath I take. When I fight it, I hide it, it takes me down. Yeah, I know we created a mess. It's growing bigger with every choice we make. Yeah, we're here, we keep coming around. The more it itches, the higher we go, the harder we fall in and out of love. We should burn those bridges
what's up guys? Where you been at? I've been waiting for you. My name is Michael Buffington. I'm the concept art lead in the game development department, and in game development, we do really cool stuff. In fact, we teach you guys how to make games. Check this out. As you can see, we got beautiful artwork all over the walls, really high level stuff. Students are doing really good work here. But I got something else to show you. Come on. So down here, we got one of our concept art classrooms, and it's full of Wacom Cintiqs. And on these Cintiqs, people do all their 3D and their concept artwork. They draw directly on the screen, and we have a whole classroom full of them. It's super awesome. Check it out.
Hi, welcome.
This is Jacqueline Jockson, AKA Jax. She's one of our concept art instructors, and she's teaching some really cool stuff in this class. Tell us what you're teaching, Jax.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, welcome to GAM 328. This is Monsters vs. Mechs. This is an upper level concept design course here at the Academy. In the first half of the course, we create our own kaiju Pacific Rim style. And in the second half of the course, we concentrate on hard surface design and create our own mech or Jaeger or Gundam to fight our midterm monster. Let's check out some work. Hey, SJ, what are you working on?
Hey, let's take a closer look.
Yo guys, I got a bunch of cool stuff to show you guys. Come on. So as you can see, everywhere around the department, we have really cool artwork all over the walls. But what I really want to show you is our esports room.
I'm coming.
This is Michael Witzel. He's our tech lead, and he's the head of all the really cool esports stuff that we do here in the game development department. Mr. Witzel.
Hello. Welcome. Come on in. You know, the best part about being here is our game lounge. Here, check it out. Pretty cool, right?
Hey, David, are you busy?
Not for you.
So this is David Goodwine. He's the executive director of the game development department.
Hi, thank you for coming. How we have things set up here is more about the community. Somebody might have an idea about a game or how they're going to make it, and then somebody else has another idea. Community, they feed off of one another.
So if you guys are interested in making games, if you guys are interested in things like concept art or 3D or game design, programming, scripting, game animation, or anything like that, we'd love to see you here one day in the game development department.
Yes, we would.
Take care, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Apply now at redbullcampusclutch.com.
Pushed around, always lost, not found, but I didn't realize. Like a giant standing in my way, leading me astray. Now it's time for me to rise. I knew I had to find myself. Turns out I'm on my own. I will
go until the end of the timer at the top of the screen. Oh, hello. How are you guys doing? Welcome back to the Esports Weekly Workshop, Week 5. My name is Artie, and I was just yelled at our producer. Mark, how you doing?
Yell away. My name's Mark G. We're back for building out Valorant Ascent level, episode 5. So we're going to continue on with bomb site A today and look at more strategies and tactics and what goes into building that out. We'll be playing around with Sage and the wonderful wall, see what possibilities are there. There we go, the wall for everybody to see. Thinking about what goes into building out when the character's abilities start coming into a game and all the complications that come from that. Our character's in Unreal, or character doesn't have that ability. It's still pretty bare bones, but I did add some cool new gun sound effects, which will be fun. And from there, we're going to keep building. From Site A, start expanding out a little bit. And hopefully before we're all done streaming, we're going to build out the entire Ascent level. So that's
Awesome.
our goal today.
Very excited to see what else we still need after we've figured out most of our Legos, prior to that. I know that we're going to be having some fun with Hell, the area just underneath the rafters, and, the little intricacies that go on in there. And what's most interesting about this site is also the fact that you can really see kind of in detail what design decisions were made in regards to playtesting. I like to look at this box and reminisce at the time when this box did not exist and the reason that they got rid of it. And why is there a box on just that side but not over here? What differences does that entail? Why is that such a big deal? All of these things we're going to talk on today. But firstly, I'd like to actually start off real quick by having you plant us the spike. Think that you are on the attacking team. Yes? No? Is that me?
Yes. Do I have the spike?
Wait, I think I'm on the attacking team. I think we just swapped spawns. But so one of the things about Ascent site is that it is built out and tailored to every single agent, and you can kind of see that in a lot of its geometry. In the time that I spent this week playing Valorant, only had time for about 3 different matches this week. Every single one of them just happened to be on Ascent, and I got to see almost every single agent kind of doing their work here. And it starts pretty obvious with you got your flashes, you got Breach and Phoenix and Sky. You got Omen with his blind, and you got Yoru's flashes as well. And those all interact the way that you would expect a flash to. A Breach is specifically a little bit weirder just because it goes through a wall. But this site is really kitted out in favor of the attackers utilizing those flashes in an offensive manner. The defenders are going to be able to flash out a little bit, but if you look at where Mark is versus me right now, if I'm a defender rotating up here to try and find any given area that an attacker might be coming from, all I can do is send out a flash and hope that there's nobody hiding behind that box, maybe behind that wall, maybe they're baked in a tree, they're in that cubby right there, or if they're already further up in here, they're behind Hell. If you are an attacker flashing, the defenders, unless they're baked into the site, have literally one area that they can hide behind, which is this part over here behind rafters. And that is a little bit difficult because they have to cross this entire super long gap. You can just get flashed super easily by an attacker that comes through, because even if you're behind here, the attackers are still now going to have the ability to push all the way up. And if they're locking you in with flashes, making sure that you can't peek out, because even if those flashes don't connect, those flashes still prevent you from going out. You still have to take the time to hide out from them. And then also Breach, that's one of his most important abilities right there that's often underutilized, especially in the lower ranks, just given the fact that it forces you out of cover. A lot of people use it on a wall like this, and that's honestly not where you want to use that type of ability, because if Breach sends that right here and I'm just sitting here, I don't have to peek out and expose myself. I can just go all the way back in this side here, and then I'm still safe. But if I'm a defender baked into the site and I'm sitting right behind here, Breach can just come through, use his blast, and now I have to come out of cover. I can try to get back over here behind Hell, but I'm still going to be exposing myself to a lot of different players. And I think that the most important abilities on this site, given the openness of it, there are 3 bits of cover in the middle. There is Hell. There is, an area over here, but it's mostly out in plain sight. So you have smokes, but obviously you can shoot through those. You have an astral wall, which can block that, but that's an ultimate. And you might not have that every single round, obviously, because it's an ultimate. And smokes only really do so much, especially jet smokes don't last very long. Omen smokes last pretty long. Astras as well, those are both 12 seconds, but they still don't block the sight off the way that a wall does. And so Sage has a bunch of super unique play styles. So we'll start with the defense section over here. So defending A site as Sage gives you a lot of opportunities as to what you can do. So firstly, if you would like to just troll your team, easy. Now your team can't defend. That's probably the number one thing that I see Sages on my team doing. But that also goes from the other way too. If you're an attacker and you have an attack Sage, you can throw this wall up from down here, and suddenly the defenders are not going to be able to rotate instantly. But that's not the best use of an offensive Sage wall. You could also wall this off here, which works to prevent, because then they have to shoot through the door, then they have to shoot through your wall. You can also use it just like this. You can actually rotate Sage's wall freely. And so what you can do is you can have Phoenix and Yoru flash out, or you can have Sky flash out to get that information. And then you actually just put your wall up like this. And now you have a free cross onto the site. Combine that with an Omen smoke here and here and here. And then Brimstone smokes. Brimstone has 3. Put all of them on the site right there. You can push up through and even all the way over to this site without even being seen. And that's super, super effective. But my favorite utilization of the Sage wall, and Mark, I don't know if you've ever seen this before, so I'm really excited to see if you've ever seen this, is this super cheeky spike plant. So you could do is you walk over, and then just the very moment that you can plant the spike, you turn this way so it goes even further inside. And then what you could do is you can actually wall up from inside Hell. And so now my spike is entirely covered. So you're a defender, right? What can you do? What is on your mind right now for how you can get through this wall to defend your site?
Yeah, you are at the mercy of whoever is back there. You have to shoot your way through it, which is going to consume time. You know the direction they're coming from. So you are at the mercy of all the attackers at this point.
Yeah, and even more fun too if it's been a long gunfight and you just don't have the bullets to get through. And yeah, so that's one of the I have no idea what just happened there. Oh, I think it's because we were on auto respawn.
Was that what it was?
We were on auto respawn. Oh gosh. Yeah, so that was that's kind of like one of the most fun things to look at as far as Sage's walls and what she's capable of. And Sage, there are other characters with walls. You have Phoenix's wall that lasts for a little bit. You've got Viper's wall, which you can put up and down on command, and then Astra's wall, like we were talking about before. But none of them have the physical characteristics of Sage's wall. Sage's wall actively terraforms the map in front of you, and I think that that's pretty big as far as changing the design of the level on the fly. What do you think?
Oh yeah, it's the wall. I mean, Sage's character and the ability to use that wall is just critical in I wouldn't say any match, depending on your mix of characters, but you have to be able to utilize that, understand the site, understand the angles, and where you can trap the attackers, where you can pin them out, where you can, and as a defender, and if as attacker, you do the same to the defenders. How can we push them into a position where it is in our benefit to know where they're coming from? If we block off one area, if obviously they're not destroying the wall, there's only 2 options left. They're either going to go this way or this way. Cuts down on the options abilities, the guard, defend. So yeah, I mean that ability alone is for me, just thinks about the quintessential abilities to how to use it in this game. And as a player that does not play Sage and gets yelled at all the time when I do play her, I don't play her competitively because I'm not very good at it. I'm one of those people that accidentally places the wall and blocks in his teammates. So
you're that defender I was talking
I'm that
about
one,
before.
yeah. I try and stick to characters I fully understand or practice a lot more before I do. But yeah, this site is perfect to show that off because it is very. You feel like you understand exactly. There's only 3 options to come from, and how do we utilize that? When we go back into Unreal and start building out, thinking about that, we can just make up a quick. And I wonder how her wall stacks up to some of these items we've placed about. We have thought about the scale of our so-called boxes, the generic boxes throughout the level. Do they measure up? They look higher than the generic box. Are they wider? I'm not sure. They look actually less wide.
Yeah, they're so I can put it right up next to this here. So as you can see, they are a little bit. Oh, here's actually a better spot to put them. So right here. So same width, just about, and then the height, it's 1 1/2 as far as our standard block sizes go.
So looking at our tiles here, we got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, that tile's not on that one. Can we compare here? A little bit.
Yep. I can
1, 2, 3, 3, and a little bit more.
There we go.
So we've been doing this through multiple episodes now, always comparing our scale, always comparing how do things fit together. Is there a common scale and what we call metric to this level and its objects? The metric of how the character moves, the metric of how the character fits into this space, how they interact. What does it take for us to jump up to this box, and then up onto Heaven's platform up here? We have to really be able to perfect that and get that scale accurate. And it's constant comparison. It's constant running around. Now, the character we have in Unreal is not a true Valorant character. We have pretty much created from the beginning the ability to move around, crouch, shoot a generic weapon. And from there, we've just kind of estimated or guesstimated the speed is close. It feels correct. And then at that point, we constantly are moving, turning, crouching, moving about, comparing how this feels and looks. The field of view, the camera is another big thing. We don't have a perfect replication of Valorant. So it is very much like a levels designer's job when you start with the game that's early on and you don't have all your tools. There's a lot of guesswork going on, and there's a lot of testing and hoping that in the long run, this all works out and this level turns into a really fun, cool level that you don't have to throw away and rebuild from scratch. But that's also very common. A lot of throwing away, a lot of rebuilding from scratch. And rebuilding sometimes is even harder than throwing it away because it's difficult to redesign an area because you're so attached to what you've done already. I have to rebuild this arch, or I have to think about new angles. You're kind of locked into what's there. It happens to, many designers, and you have to kind of train yourself to be ready to, okay, I'm going to start over. Maybe I should just delete everything here and forget what I've done and start over. I've always found it some of the hardest things to do is, how can we re-envision this without tearing it up completely? Sometimes it's good to bring on another level designer and get their perspective when you've spent this many hours staring at the same blocks, same walls, remembering how many hours and late nights you spent building this. It could be tough to re-envision it.
Yeah, and to say, hey, like we'll change it up and just not do what we spent all of our time on. Yeah, that could be tough.
Yeah, and sometimes you come back to it months or years later even. you'll have it. It was in a really good position. You're running around, people are playing it. It's really fun. This is great. And then over the course of a year or more, things change, mechanics change, abilities come into the game. Maybe there's just been a point of no return that people have found that, well, the game seemed like it was going in the right direction, a year ago, but it really isn't anymore. People have kind of grown tired of the game, and they feel like it's just doesn't really capture them and it's going to hold them for a long period of time. So then you make changes to the functionality of the characters themselves, and then at that point the level is obsolete. So it happens quite a bit. It's definitely difficult to throw things away and start over, but it's good to get used to. I'm going to
Totally
jump over to
understandable.
Unreal now and look at what we've done.
Yeah, let's see. So I know that we have built out most of a site. I know we still got to focus on rafters and hell a little bit. And what was the next thing we were going to do after that? We were going to work on the catwalk run up. So we're going to go expand just into not catwalk just yet at the very least, but tree and the other kind of half of a site, which is garden and window. I know that is an important interaction there because, I still consider that part of a site, just given the fact that it's a very important rotation. Tree is the main link between the defenders and attackers rotations outside of A, and so I think if we could build that would be really, really cool. There's a lot of verticality in that as well, so it might add a bit of challenge, but I'm curious to see how you overcome that. Just the main part of that being that you have your rafters height up at the top, and then you come out of tree room, and then there's another section that goes down at a different rate than it does on A site, and you come right back out to A site at the lowest part of it.
Yeah, it's definitely where I think the overall scale, what we've completed at this point, is pretty accurate. There was a lot of going back and forth last week, realizing, just getting this grass to feel accurate, getting these little edges, I don't know what we call this here, to feel accurate, the width of the steps, the incline, this doorway, how does it all match up? And it's a whole lot of going back and forth. Same with the boxes here, which is a standard, making sure this feels the same. So I just did this about 4 times in a row, and I'm going to back up, see if this feels right. It actually feels really good, actually.
That looks really good.
So this is what I do on, when I'm playing in the game all the time. You go up in an attacking position or defensive position, and I back up, looking up here onto the platform up on heaven, guarding against who may be coming around that corner. So for today, I think we need to really just flesh out the heaven and hell setup. We have to probably set up outside our door here, the gate, and make this a little more realistic. Feel like this is Ascent level and not just a big void. And also consider creating a temporary wall like Sage's wall, and maybe moving it around, thinking about if we place it here, if we place it there, even think about the angles while we're in Unreal. We could test this out. So the point of this, us keeping our characters simple and not having all the bells and whistles, but I did add one bell and whistle this week. So the gun sounds like a varmint rifle. And I added a new sound. We could simulate the nasty sniper rifle. It's got a bigger sound. I turned down the audio. It could be pretty loud. So we've got that going, and we also have a heavy machine gun sound I could put in there. So these are the cheap little frills you can come up with as you're developing, trying to think about what happens with having different weapons. For me to go in there and set up the behavior of a heavy machine gun or the behavior of the sniper rifle, not out of context to do that. It's not extremely difficult in Unreal or a modern engine. But I'm not going to do that right now. Kind of gets us off track. Definitely want to focus on keeping our characters temporary, simplistic, entertain ourselves as creative individuals. How do I keep myself motivated and energized without the full game to work from.
Yeah,
so let's look at Heaven and Hell here and tell me what I should build next there, Artie.
Yeah, definitely. So let's take a look at Hell real quick, and it looks like your Hell is a little bit hollow, which is fine. Hell is relatively hollow, but this depth here goes probably a little bit farther than you'd expect. So if I'm sitting here halfway with my Sage Wall, it's kind of the perfect the perfect marker for it. So exactly 2 of these Sage Wall blocks is the depth of Hell there. And for reference, one of our Sage Wall blocks is, if I can just set this up right to put it this way. So yeah, so the lengthwise here is about 1.5 of our regular. Actually, it is the length of one of our boxes. So one of our standard 1U boxes. Actually, if I break this out, we'll see, because there's a 1U box right behind it. So yeah, 1.5 of our 1Us. So that means that it's 6, and then so we got 3 and then 6, which is equivalent to 3 boxes. We got 3 boxes deep into Hell there, and then there's a little bit of a cubby going over to the left hand side, a little bit of a cubby on the right hand side, but I believe that the depth of that site is very, very important. Just as well how far on either side it goes, because that will interact with your sight lines.
All right, so I'm going to measure out what we just talked about. We said 1.5 boxes wide or 2? I heard 6 in there. I lost. Yeah. I got lost on 6.
So it's 3 of those boxes right there. Is how deep it is.
All right. All right. So let's see, how's this set up? This is still a brush. The brushes are editable, and we can manipulate them in Unreal quite easily. Oh, this is actually a cube. Okay. So what I'm going to do, instead of doing a subtraction brush, this is a cube too. You can just move this back. That looks like it matches up really close. And then we need to scale these out a little bit, getting buried in the wall here. And since that can just go through that back wall without issue, can just make that larger. And instead of having to scale this out again, I will just copy paste over. Copy paste, lots of modular pieces.
Lots of Legos.
Yes, Legos is a good word. Okay, I think we have our depth set. So I think this floor is a brush. So I could do my little trick here where I can grab just this face and pull it out. So our brushes, which are called geometry in Unreal. I'm going to go to the brush editing mode because I have a brush selected. And that allows me to just grab this face, which will start glowing. I'll just pull it out instead of having to scale and move the whole object. That works well. And how does the width of it line up with, let's say, the stairs or the arch? What do we got there?
So the entranceway, like the doorway, is the size of one of our small boxes, and that's incorporated into our 3 boxes long measurement. But the opening itself, in relation to the arch, I believe is a little bit wider. So if you look straight forward, actually, let's see. So it goes straight across.
It looks like it lines up right the edge of the arch.
On the left-hand side, it lines up just at the edge, and then on this right-hand side, I believe that the arch is. Oh yeah, you know what? It does line up. It does line up perfectly.
Both of them?
Yeah, both of them.
Oh wow! All right, nice, so we can
illusion.
Let's do our magic of. So we know this is accurate. We'll get rid of these. Don't need. Let me do a smart thing and say create a new level, save as, before I crash. So let's go into top-down mode. Gotta select that, select this, and then I'm gonna go into top-down mode. So, and I can look at my grid, and we can see where these two line up. So this is the edge of our, no, that's not the edge of our, I'm lost. Here's the stairs. Oh, here we go. This is the tunnel or arch. And this is the edge of little cubby hole in hell. So that on our grid is right about 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 4 units on this line. If I line it up, if I move this over, so 1, 2, that's 2, that's 3, that's right about 4. And on this side, gonna line it up on this grid line, and this is about 1, 2, 3, and just a bit more off of that line. Go back to my zoom in a little bit, 1, 2, 3, and I can turn off this snap if it's snapping too much. Here we go. Only way to know for sure is I go test this in game. That is looking pretty darn close. Let's make sure this lines up. Is this box in the right spot? Wow, it looks really small though. What went wrong there?
Looks a little bit small. Oh, it's because it's
I
not
need a
open
nook
on the
in
inside.
here.
It's
Yeah,
not
I need
open
an
on the
open
inside.
spot. Aha. So I'm gonna have to turn these into brushes and carve this out. This will make it easier.
Yeah, use the subtractive
Oops.
feature, right? Subtractive blocks.
Yes. So we'll go back to our. I'm gonna have to delete these. So what I'm gonna do is grab an existing. This is a cube. Where's a quick square brush? Right. I guess I'll create a new one. So geometry box. And we will grab the same material. And I've selected this generic cube. Go to my details. It's the material that's on it is gray walls. So I click the little magnifying glass. So now when I drag this in, it already has a material associated with it. So now we're going to do our brush magic. So you notice how it does not update as I move it, which is probably fine. So it's constantly processing and constantly updating the brushes, which is pretty intensive for your computer. So that's another reason we don't keep the whole level filled with brushes. At some point, we start turning them into static mesh, which is far cheaper, less performance issues for your computer and level in general. Very effective at building though, keeps you in the engine, very simple. And you could build in Maya, it's just, or any 3D program, it's just being outside the engine is not optimal. So there's my cube.
Understandable.
Delete that. That's because you have to go back and forth and you're not playing the game enough. There's some engines that just you have to do that, which is fine. You get used to it. But if you can stay in the engine, it sure is nice. So now I just take this same brush and I copied and pasted it. And I'm going to shape it to form our interior here. Now the interior is going to be based on it being subtractive. So over here on my brush type, additive obviously means it's solid, and when I hit subtractive, it will subtract from another brush. So I can kind of carve it out like we're chiseling in stone. And I think I have to measure that box. I believe we have one box plus another wall thickness in here, correct?
So yeah, if you take remember our standard size cubes, if we consider that to be made up of 8 smaller cubes, the entire, and we take those, those smaller cubes, right? So
Well,
one
actually,
of
I
our
need to create
standard
a
cubes.
wall first. So we have a thickness there, right? Then we measure the
Yeah.
cube.
Got it. Yeah, so the thickness of that wall is gonna be half of a cube. Yeah. Just like a little bit. Yeah,
Is
exactly.
it half?
Yeah, it's 1/2 of those standard cube sizes. Just like our half cubes that we jump on. I guess they're 1/8 cubes that we jump on.
All right, that's probably pretty close. And then with inside that, we have a cube or box, or I think it's a stack of bricks, right? We can hide behind.
Yep. And so it's 1.5 cubes deep, but one of those cubes is filled. So if you want to, so all
Keep
the way.
that one.
Yeah.
So this is only, the space behind it is only half a cube?
There's no space behind it. It goes all the way up against the wall.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, so the space in between the cube and the wall is only 1/2 a cube.
Gonna cheat, fly over there in Valorant. Yeah. All right, there we go. Oh, this is actually off. You're right. Aha! I had it all wrong in my memory banks. So we have one cube here. We have a small gap here. That's what I was off.
So these are 1/8 cube sizes, and this is our full cube. So it's, you just say these smaller cubes. It's 3 smaller cubes deep. This wall is 1 small cube thick, and then it's all across. It's 6 small cubes size total.
So I have my subtractive brush. Instead of moving it around, and actually I can move it around. So let's show a trick here. I'm gonna move it up. So we're trying to be as close as possible. We have awesome reference. We have an existing level that's fun, that's been tuned, it's been polished. This same application can be made towards, if you use like a reference image, you find some awesome picture, some motivation, and you could utilize that and try and build it from scratch. So maybe in the future we could do that. We could actually take a concept art piece and build a level from that, and yet we have no 3D reference whatsoever. It is fully built from 2D illustrations. So right now you can see it's carving a hole in our other brush. So I don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is, I think this floor piece could be our, the way it works is as you add the brushes on top of each other, there's a hierarchy. So just like you would have in Illustrator, there's a layer of, you want something to be the order in front of something else as you put it in a 2D graphics package. So in this, it's similar, but you think of it as like a hierarchy of parent and who's below that parent. Right now, this is the parent. This was the last object created. So what I want to do is make sure the floor is the last object created. So we go to order. Here we go. And I'll say to last. And we notice now that this brush does not subtract from it. And that's also happening with this. And there's no other subtractive brushes doing anything to it, so I can make that last as well. So this is one of the disciplines we have to get used to, of just not having too many pieces overlapping, not having too many brushes subtracting and adding to each other. It's a wonderful tool, but it can get messy really, really fast if you have all these pieces overlapping. One common thing is people will make a cube and then put another cube inside and just subtract from that, and that there's their walls. Look, I have a room, which is really fun, but like I said, if you have a lot of brushes overlapping and you get this order wrong, it's a big mess really quick. So now on this side, we can take this subtractor brush and this one. Oops. And just clone them on over. Just line them up. That way. Get rid of the cube. Go find my subtractor brush in the walls. Move it out. And depth-wise, what's the depth underneath on this side?
Looks to be roughly the same, just with no box holding us back. Of our wonderful mascot under here.
I'm just going to do it by hand and eyeball it. Okay, so let's take this and match our box. I brought this up before. There's many different techniques you can build. I do a lot of moving around and eyeballing. It's just the way I like to work. You can use the grid more. You can do things where you have... We are doing this in a lighthearted manner by using these boxes to check scale. But you can get really heavy, hardcore, and have a material on it that shows a square tile on everything, and you could measure everything everywhere based on the character movements if you want. So a lot of different techniques that you can do to accomplish this. But making sure things are accurately and constantly double checking is always happening. That never gets, you never move away from that. So I need to change these to be last again, which means they were created last. It's a strange term to put. Floor is last again. All right, now let's get rid of this box. There's no box on that side. And let's play. Still lines up. I do have some protrusions here that interfere a little bit with my sight line. Run through. See how this feels. This feels a little thicker, but what about the comparison of me hiding here? Can I fully hide in here? From the arch, if I'm tucked in here and my gun's pointing out, can I be seen?
So this
I guess I'll have to get into Valorant and check.
Yeah, this is a bit similar to the so this is 1/4 of our box length, right? And that you can see half of the person. So since that's a full half of box length, you're fully hidden right there in that cubby. Now,
so I'm hidden, and if I turn the gun out, can you see the gun?
Oh yeah, I can see the gun very well.
You can, okay. Obviously, that's not going to happen here. This is thicker than I thought. It's pretty wide.
Yep, that's that's one of our small box lengths there. Because I honestly, these boxes, the more we do this, the more I realize these boxes are kind of a very, very standard unit here. Same with this. So the distance between this back wall and this wall here is, so you see this one full cube and then another full cube, and then at the end of that full cube is where that starts on the inside here.
Ah, perfectly on the grid.
Yep, the grid of cubes.
Grids, 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 grids. If anybody has made a Dungeons and Dragons map, they will know this. They will have taken out the graph paper and drawn out their Dungeon of Doom on a grid. So the advantage of a grid is exactly what we're seeing here. You have the ability to measure and accurately keep things very tight, very accurate. The detriment to that is it tends to feel like things are on a grid. And unless you're very careful and you get creative and you make a lot of changes and just make sure it doesn't feel like that all the time. Because players will, many players won't be able to voice that opinion. Like, oh, it feels like it's on a grid. It's too boxy. But they'll play it and they'll be like, yeah, it's okay. That's kind of what you're going to get for feedback. You know, anybody, any player or tester, You know, unless somebody's really experienced and knows the vocabulary, they won't be able to describe that. It's just going to feel kind of flavorless. Everything's at 90-degree angles. Everything's, just has a formula to it. It doesn't have that quality of being lived in, of a real place, of something exciting and unexpected and challenging.
Understandable. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the coolest things about this, though, is because it feels so organic, right? It doesn't feel like it takes place on a grid. Like, even us looking at it and playing in it, we couldn't tell that. But when you take a really deep look at it, you've got this here. It's offset instead of by a half of these blocks like everything else is. You've got this one section in the middle where these first light boxes are 1/4 off, right? And then you've got also all the art that is while the art doesn't interact with the gameplay, that's all strewn about haphazardly. There's wires everywhere, there's trash and broken tiles, and that makes it look so much more organic. And that really helps with the feeling of play here. You never feel like you're on that grid.
Yeah, the trash is a good comment because you could put something organic in there. Same with like the grass and the trash kind of rhymes. You could put those elements in there, and you could make like shapes that feel organic and off the grid and create an organic sense to it. Yet the main structures, the main player pathing, the main areas are still on this grid. But I have some grass over here that's grown, but you're still contained within a grid section that's very exact and very measured out perfectly. So adding those different elements that create some chaos and clutter, break up the space, can kind of fool the player into thinking that it's more complicated than it is.
Definitely. I mean, they fooled me.
So
as we get
from
into
our
building heaven,
jump up, go for it.
Yeah, as we get into building heaven, I'm really curious to see what's going to happen as far as the height goes when we go further through window, garden, and tree. Just because we were talking earlier about height and making sure we got the height right for that player feeling. And this is such an interesting site because, you've got that slope upwards that happens in the middle. Then you've got your big jump up for heaven. And then on the other side of it, on the other half of a site, got this rundown outside of window into garden, and then another staircase that's a different height than our other one because there's another like little half floor over here, and then we're back to our basal height that has been the same since we got out of spawn. And so going from here up into the next room, it's just, this is when it starts to get all vertical, and I'm very curious to see how we tackle that.
That's a challenge. We must hurry. Must build faster. So this thickness should be the same here as here.
Yep.
So I'm going to, that is a subtractive element. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this box over. I'm going to get on the grid on my top down, and I'm going to...
Oh, this is another thing that adds to the height of the of hell. There's a little lip here that's very, very small, but on the outside it looks like it's much smaller. Than you go in, and it just goes just above where that little opening is. That really helps it to feel a lot more open in here.
All right, so I just measured right on the grid. I lined up the placement of this box to the thickness of our inner wall here.
Oh, perfect. Oh,
and this inner wall, I'm going to use a brush. Yes, I will. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to quickly build out this wall here. I'm going to pull it up because this needs to be the same thickness. And I'm going to scale this one. And I know there's a window down there, so I'm going to leave it as a brush. So let's get up on our top-down view. Be smarter about this. Oh, I was gonna say, what just happened there? I was looking at a completely different object.
Oh,
That makes more sense. So let's make sure this is the same thickness as below. Use my scale tool really quick. Okay, and so now I need to have this go down the way. Have to line it up with the edge right here. And I'm not sure how far that goes, but we'll hit play and check it out. So now we've got a problem. We have a big wall in the way. Let's see how high that is. Compare that to our game.
It's pretty high and also a little bit thinner. It's another one of our small boxes.
Oh, is it thinner than this below?
Yeah. Well, this below is one small box, so it's same. See these
Oh, maybe I got
crates
that
next to
wrong
it?
then.
Yeah. So it's
Like
this
my,
is also a big thing too. Is the height on the inside? If you look over here, so we keep using these small boxes as our units of measurement, right? Up at the top of this here, the thickness of this outer board is one box, but when you get into it, it's half height. And so on the inside of our hell, we've got the cube and then one
just
small
a
box
little
for
bit.
height.
Just a little bit off.
So yeah,
Tiny bit. It's really small. Because here's our small box. It's really close. So I'm going to cheat. And I'm going to go back into the edit brush mode. And I'm going to pull this in a little bit.
and
Okay, that's more accurate.
It's actually really funny that we've been doing this, specifically, making Valorant maps, just because of the fact that earlier in the week, I think it was actually last Wednesday, for CS:GO, a map on the workshop came out, which is Split. So somebody made Valorant Split in CS:GO, but one of the first things that you notice is that the scaling is all wrong. And so it plays like the Valorant map to an extent. Obviously, you're in CS:GO as well. But a lot of the different sightlines are different. And people were quick to be like, oh, it's because CS:GO is a different game than Valorant. Oh, Valorant's different paced. Oh, there's abilities. It's, of course, going to feel different. But biggest thing is that person that made that map didn't take the same amount of time that we are to scale it. And to scale it correctly, because in CS:GO your characters are a different height than here in Valorant, and so the map looks much bigger on the outside when you go into it. And some people might say, oh, again, it's like, oh, it's FOV, like Valorant has fixed FOV, CS:GO doesn't. But you got to take into account the fact that when you build with a fixed FOV, you don't have to account for all those angles, whereas CS:GO, sure you do, but you could just take a look at it from the same horizontal FOV, build it out with your correct scaling, and then worry about that kind of stuff later, because that's one of the things, because CS:GO doesn't have fixed FOV, that's just built into the game. And so they didn't really worry too much about that, and so it looks a lot bigger, and so people are just like, oh, this doesn't feel very good, oh, I don't like Valorant. And well, it's A, not Valorant, and B, you didn't get the scale right. That scale that we're working so hard to do right now, there's a reason for that. It's because that changes the feel and the gameplay. The stuff is very tightly tuned. That's why it takes years to make this map.
Yeah, it's a good example of sometimes something's off. I think the shooting angles, when you have like a very, very, very specific competitive game like this, where you're very much hunkered down defending or attacking a site, every little inch of the map, you can figure out what's going on there. Other games and other things like that, where you don't really sit down and just look at every square inch of an area, it's harder to figure out what's wrong with it. You're just like, wait, this feels off. There's something wrong. But yeah, and even if it's slightly off, you'll notice it, and it'll come up, and it'll cause a lot of problems. So this right now, this is a brush. This is good. I was worried we weren't going to be able to, we're going to have to replace this. So I'm going to quickly move this wall out of the way by grabbing the face and bringing it in. Although he did not get the height correct yet. Go back to Valorant. So as you're standing there, you can kind of see the height. So this looks like it's 1 box. This is 2 boxes high. This looks very close to 2 boxes high with the scaffolding. They've disguised it because of the scaffolding on top. So the scaffolding doesn't make it look so boxy and square and straight.
Exactly.
But I think it's pretty, the collision would probably be pretty darn close.
I think that it is, once again, our one small box. Yeah, the art team, another point to them for making this whole grid system look very, very organic.
And is that roof higher than the wall? The roof right next to the scaffolding?
The scaffolding goes to the same amount, and the roof is oh, you mean the roof over on this side? So it's actually the same height as our hell here, but it extends way, way taller.
Oh, actually, the roof is smaller. So from here, this lines up. Where does this line up? Oh, I can see that. So here we have a nice indicator of the grid. Where does that go? Can I see that through the wall? Nope.
Right here is where it. So
it's actually pretty much right on that mark.
Yeah, if you want to see this, they actually left an indicator for themselves here too. It's this. As soon as this white sheet ends, this is where it is, and so it's 1 square that way, 1 small cube, and then the very end of this white sheet connects with the outside here. So once again, that grid system really coming into play. Everything is based on this small cube model. Very, very interesting. You're just extending and adjusting and taking the time to make sure that this is all going to be well and, and good.
Doing the boring stuff. Or measure. So this is where you get the entertainment, where you try to have to entertain yourself. This is maybe where if you've had enough of this, you go off and make some props. It's like, oh, let's go make a gelato, some nice looking gelato.
We'll go make a nice hot pizza.
Yeah, I mean, you really do entertain yourself. Wow, this lines up perfectly. 2 boxes and a small box. So from there, how much farther to our wall, end wall, and then window?
Yep, everything is just 1 small box. All right, so we'll name these. We have standard cube, and a standard cube is made up of 8 small boxes.
So this looks like 1 full cube. It looks like 2 full cubes are very close. Till we get to the window and the wall. So the wall.
And this is, I think, 1 standard cube height. Actually, I think this is where we start to break that down a little bit, because this doesn't look like it's 1 cube tall. And then we also have to worry about the grass sloping. Garden, we have the grass, and on the site we got the trash. It does kind of rhyme. Another thing that we can talk about while you're doing all the boring stuff is one of the things people don't really notice is this right up here. So you got door, right, that you can toggle on and off, but there's a little cubby, there's a little hole right up there, which if you're pretty good with your aim, you can actually, which I'm not, you can actually nail a grenade all the way through. Of course, I'm gonna miss as soon as I'm talking about it, but that's the glory of doing this live. You can hit this grenade in here, just like that, and actually go on the outside of that door without opening it. It's pretty powerful move there, especially if you want to if you're playing as Raze and you're gonna be on top of generator. You can nail a grenade through that little hole there, and this hole just looks like a little like art design piece, but really it's useful, and a lot of people still don't know about it in competitive. So if you guys are watching this right now, it's probably a good pretty good note to have. Obviously it exists on both sides, so you can do the same thing as long as you don't miss your nade. Just practice that walk up a bit, and yeah, very powerful move to show that you're good at Raze.
All right, we're getting to making our little window and cubby hole here. We'll just call it a cubby hole.
Awesome. So we're making the window run out right now.
So I'm jumping around quite a bit using my grid looking. So it's about 2 boxes wide. There's 1 box. So that 1 box in its current position, we've got about 1, just about 2 wide.
Looks like we really have gotten to use our cube and small box grid. Love it.
So that's looking about right. Back to our perspective. Let's stretch this out. Let's make it subtractive. Let's make sure that this floor is last. I don't want to subtract from it. And let's delete these boxes. These are just here for
Apply now at redbullcampusclutch.com.